if they can make them bloom, oh, bloom. Showing if they can make them bloom.
Welcome to the Bloom Show, the special edition of Women's Day Roundtable. And this is the 5th year that we're doing this. This event is especially for the amazing women within the floral industry. So if you're a woman or a man like myself and really inspired by amazing people that do great things for the industry, then join us today as we explore the great women in our industry. And it starts with Kate Penn, CEO of SAF, Carmen, I gotta get her full name. Give me a second. Let me use my cheat sheet here. But Carmen Lucia Marquez Hernandez, marketing manager of Ball SB, and we also have Melinda Knuth, assistant professor of North Carolina State University. And all these women have a great story to tell and inspiring as well. We are missing Monet Pippin as she had a personal situation and couldn't attend today, but I hope to have her on the show because she is an amazing woman that's been in our industry for many years and has truly inspired many as well. So without further ado, I do want to mention that as this show, the Bloom Show, it is for the floral industry by the floral industry. So we do ask you to chime in, ask questions, give shout outs, give whoop whoops and say, great night, be excited for us. And it's kind of a special night because we're just doing a night and we all have a little cocktail and we're enjoying each other's company today. So we ask you to join us as well. And after the show, if you like it, subscribe, share, comment, like, because it keeps us inspired as well. And make sure to share it with other women in your company to inspire them as well, and continuing to grow within our industry. So without further ado, allow me to invite Carmen, Melinda, and Kate Penn to the show. And here we go.
Showing if they can make them bloom, oh, bloom. Showing if they can make them bloom.
The Bloom Show in the Big Connect. Isn't that catchy?
Ladies, we did a pretty good job doing that backup song, didn't we?
Yes, you did, guys. Thank you very much for all three of you for joining with the backup song. But I think that's so catchy. I love it. I saw Melinda bobbing her head in the background too. So thank you guys for joining. Really, thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Melinda. I think Carmen's a first timer on our show, but
Yes,
again, there's nothing to be worried about because it's a really relaxed environment, authentic and chilled out, and we really want to encourage that within our audience as well. So thank you all for being here, truly. And I know that Carmen and Kate and I were at the great convention that was happening on Monday, and I know we're a little tired. I'm a little hoarse, as you can hear, but thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. So Kate, let's start with you. Can you share about yourself? How long have you been in the industry? And what do you do now for Society of American Florists, which is one of the oldest organizations in the U.S., right, Kate? Not just in the floral industry.
I think we're the second oldest trade association in the United States, and the only one chartered by an act of Congress. We were chartered by an act of Congress to get hail insurance for floriculture growers. So that's how we started.
What does that mean by being chartered? What does and are you still chartered?
Chartered by yes, like our original charter, like Congress made us happen. We were chartered. Yeah, we were chartered as an act of Congress because I don't know if that happens anymore for associations. Wow. I don't think so.
That is cool. And let's not forget about Congressional Action Days if you guys are interested, as Kate, because it's a great organization. It's a great day and a great moment to connect, network, and make a difference in our industry. So
right. Speaking of Congress, exactly. We will be storming Capitol Hill in a couple of weeks, March 17th and 18th. Well, we'll be up on the Hill on the 18th, doing training on the 17th to learn about the issues, and it's a great event. You can go to SAF's website to find out more about that if you want to be a part of it. Okay, so my background. So I have been at SAF for a really long time. I started there as a writer 37 years ago, fresh out of journalism school. And I was doing a little freelance writing for some local papers. And then I found SAF and was a writer for their magazine and just had this trajectory just kept kind of growing and expanding on the publishing side. And and then it was so great. I guess it was about by the late 90s. I started having kids, and our CEO was really wanting. He was very much wanting to challenge the people there so that they would stay. And here I was as a new parent thinking that maybe my career kind of was flatlining, but he really made an effort to kind of bump me up, and I started getting involved in senior leadership, which was great to kind of have a seat at the table. I was going to our board meetings, and then gradually I got more involved. I expanded from our publishing and content to like our educational content and being involved with that. And then at some point, I was asked to put my hat in the ring to become CEO. And
Wow.
while it wasn't necessarily something I had planned on doing, I'm glad I did. I said, yeah, I'll go for it. I'll put my hat in the ring. And that was about seven and a half years ago. So I've been in that role since. And I have to say, I think all those years I don't think I realized how much all that time spent running our magazine and our publications and communications really prepared me for that role, because I spent so much of my career talking and really listening to our members. So it really helped me understand our industry. So I'm really grateful for that, and also grateful for my current role. And I love the industry. It's amazing. There are a lot of trade associations you can work for in the DC area, but I think ours is the best.
And if, and if I may compliment you, I do admire the way that you personally get involved in all of your conventions, and you're meeting with everybody. And one thing that I really like is when you do I've seen you at Next Gen, you're hosting everybody, walking people off the bus and making sure everybody's taken care of. So you're very hands-on and involved. So you can see the passion going through the way you interact with everybody. So congratulations to you.
Well, thank you. And I think that's like our industry. I mean, our industry is like that. There's no room for someone to sit on the sidelines or be above anything,
Of course. Of course.
I think that's part of our industry culture. So
we all get our hands dirty. So congratulations. And Carmen, how about yourself? I consider you one of the hardest working women in the industry because I see you everywhere that I'm at. So congratulations to you. Kate travels a lot as well, but I do see you everywhere. And an hour later, I see you in another convention and the next convention. So congratulations to you. And I know how hard marketing could be. So share your story. What's your background, and how did you get into the floral industry, and what do you do?
Well, thank you, Sahid, for inviting me again. I'm very glad. This is my first time. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Yes, this is my first time in the Bloom Show. I think last year at the last minute I couldn't make it either. But hey, finally I was able to, and here I am. Yes, I do travel a lot for a lot of these shows. As a matter of fact, I can vouch on Kate. Last weekend we were in Dallas, and I was coming in at 6 a.m. with my suitcase, expecting to get a room that early because check-in is not until 3 p.m., right? Usually at the hotels. And Kate was going awake at that time already. Well, it was around 6:30. She was like, well, if you need a place to stay for the moment until you get your room, you're more than welcome to stay in mine because it's huge. Fortunately enough, I didn't have to use Kate's invitation. I was able to get one. But I could totally vouch on her, how involved she is with the entire industry, making everybody welcoming to wherever we go.
Exactly.
So I'm the marketing manager for Ball SB. Ball is the South American cut flower division. The primary sells seeds, cuttings, and other plant materials for commercial and new products to the highland tropics, which are countries like Colombia, Ecuador, Kenya, and Central America. And in the Americas, the primary target market is the United States, and that's why we participate all over the different shows to show what's coming new to buyers, to wholesalers, to supermarkets, to get them interested on what's new and what is something that they could be the ones setting the pace on showing new market trends. But also, we believe in the industry, and we believe that each one of the links and each one of the different companies can make a difference, from the breeder, grower, importer, a trader, and retailer and florist. So that's why we like to contribute to this, to the entire industry, and by making one person buy one more stem of flower, we think that's our role. Now, recently, I've been involved for 5 years now. It's been like, I feel like I already know a lot of people, a lot of women that we support each other in different movements. And I recently started in the advisory board for that flower filling, to promote promote the consumption of flour in the U.S. as a self-rewarding thing for it for to have in our homes. So I'm very happy, and I hope that many more years come into my role, and can be telling more experiences like Kate in the next
Fantastic.
30 years.
37, right? And
No,
Carmen, what's your
I already have five in my belt under
You're
my.
right, so 32. So Carmen, what's your background? What industry did you come from?
Before being here, I was working as a marketing manager at a consumer goods company. It was in Unilever, here in Colombia. I was in the company for 14 years. I did all kinds of industry, or not industry, but categories, from personal care, ice cream, food, and I was at the beginning, the very beginning of my career. I was in the foods, in the restaurants. So we were targeting to hotels, and restaurants on the big consumption on margarines and mustard, ketchup, and things like that. So
Cool.
I have
That's
a lot
always
of
good to
that
know.
background in me, and I love doing marketing, and now bringing it into a product that is not necessarily branded is a little bit more of a challenge, but it still uses the same basics of marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a product that causes positive things in the world and the lives of people. So it's pretty cool.
And with a
Really,
very good purpose, and
with a very good
that's
purpose.
something that we I can relate to.
Exactly. And Melinda Knuth, assistant professor of North Carolina State University. We all know you, coming on the show and doing the yearly recap, but share a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, so I am a doctor, which is fun.
Doctor.
Yes, which because of my age, people are like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I did the full doctorate thing. I am a professor, assistant professor at North Carolina State. Before being at North Carolina State, I did a postdoc at UF for a year, and then I did my PhD at Texas A&M, and then did my bachelor's at University of Nebraska. So been all over the U.S. With my education, which has been fun. But little bit more about me. So my research area is in marketing and economics. And one of my special interests and what got me into even considering horticulture in general is cut flowers. So I really enjoy doing research on what consumers want in cut flowers, studying why people want cut flowers in general. How can we make more people buy cut flowers in the US? That's a super interesting topic that I like to work in.
Fantastic. Thank you again for all of you joining. And I would like to raise our glasses and toasting Women's Day and toasting
Yay.
to this show. And we hope you enjoy. Cheers.
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 So some of us have mocktails, some of us a little wine, a little vodka in my drink, but it's really just to chill out and just have a good time, and ask some questions and learn from each other. So let's chime in and ask a couple questions here, and I'm gonna kind of go a little bit all over the place. We'll but what can the floral industry do to continue supporting, encouraging more women leaders, especially women, to step into the leadership role and also kind of like put themselves out there, right? Which is I think is really important as well because that's a gutsy thing, but it is important for our careers. So, Kate, if you want to start answering, I think that would be great. So, what can the floral industry do to continue supporting, encouraging more leaders, especially women, to step into leadership roles?
I think it takes first and foremost awareness that we need to and that it's there. Sometimes it can be depending on who's at the table, and let's say if it's within a company, and you're trying to figure out who your next leaders are, and if everyone at the table, if it's all males, it's going to be harder. It might be harder for them to really imagine women there, and so you have to be super intentional about making that effort. But I also think there needs to be an appreciation for why it's important too. So awareness that you need to, but why it is. And again, I'm gonna talk about our former CEO, Peter Moran again. I think he really understood the importance of having female voices at the table and in leadership, and because he knew it would complement like what he didn't have and really his shortcomings. And he was a really good and caring person. And so when he had to make decisions, let's say about maybe reducing the size of our staff, let's say, and that happened at SAF. I've been there for a long time. It happened a couple of times, and it happened a couple of times while he was in that role. And I know that he was genuinely like sad about that, but he wasn't really good at communicating that, and so he knew that, and for helping our team work through it in a way like where you're showing some empathy and also kind of moving things along. And so he would turn to, I played a role in that because he knew, he's like, listen, can you help do this? Can you help have these conversations? And so I think it's important to know sometimes women are just better at some things. This is a broad generalization, okay? But there are certain things that women sometimes are just better at. Not all women are better than all men at it. Not all men are worse at it. But sometimes there's some empathy, communication, some nurturing, attention to detail. Those are some things where, generally speaking, women sort of, really, do better. They kind of thrive. And so having an awareness of why it's important, and an awareness that there needs to be like the need for it, and being intentional about it. So I think that, to me, that's what's like, you got to think about it and make a plan for it.
Yeah, and I think the key word is intentional, right? Is looking for those opportunities and being open to those opportunities, and being brave enough to step forward for those opportunities as well.
Right.
I think it's great, and I've learned that from my amazing wife that has always said, I think there was a book by Brene Brown that says dare to lead. So
yes,
she's
great book.
learned a lot from that book, and I've seen how she evolved in her mindset by reading that book into taking a leadership role. So that's awesome. Thank you, Kate. Would you, Melinda or Carmen, would you like to chime in?
Yes.
Go ahead,
So
Melinda.
I'm a statistics girly. Since this is a women's podcast, I'm a girly. I love statistics. So I concur with everything that Kate's saying. And part of it also is understanding the position that a lot of women are in. And one of the things is even saying women instead of girls, because sometimes when we are talking in a workplace, it's men and the girls, or those girls over there, instead of saying women. And when you don't use the terminology that puts women in an adult form, when you infantilize them, then it actually changes your mindset of how you think about them. So if we call women in the workplace girls, we're actually changing the way that we perceive them and thinking that they're not equal to men in stature, in intelligence, in emotion, in other ways, by minimizing them into a child mindset. And so I would encourage people to think about the way that you communicate about women around you, and are you using that, or even the dreaded term females? Are you using the term females, which is, again, diminishing the verbiage that we're even talking about when we talk about women. But anyway, that's like a whole thing that I just wanted to address off the bat. But secondly, not only the way that we think about women, but the way that women think about ourselves, because statistically, women are less likely to get raises than men, and it's because we're like half as likely to ask for raises because we don't believe that we should go up for them in the first place. And so it's this mindset of, well, I don't know if I should even ask for a raise, where men don't even think about that. Like, statistically speaking, they don't even think about it. And that is, you know, daring, like you're saying, daring to be brave and daring to think, you know, why should I even question if I'm qualified to be in this position? Why should I even question if I should go up for that role? You know, the whole idea of the worst thing they can say is no, and not even asking for permission. But there's also some things I want to say, but I think you might get to them in terms of what can people do in the workplace to help women. I think that you're going to get to that a little bit later in the show, but just briefly, in return, understanding that women are less likely to ask for their needs, inviting women to the table can be just life-changing for them, because they might want to do the thing, but they don't even know that they can ask to do the thing.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Carmen?
And I think that's another thing that they can do is show them what other women in leadership roles have done, or what they have accomplished. We have many examples that I can name of the bat. For instance, in my company, Anna Ball, she is the leader of a company that's over 100 years, and people just look up to her, and they see someone who has led this company for the last, I don't know how many decades, and it's driving other women. Her daughter Susanna is already stepping up and getting into the position of that leadership role that she's probably gonna do it in not a very few years from now, and she's already stepping into the position at the company. Just to mention one, but also Sofia Herrera here at Jardines de los Andes, another woman leading the farm. Even Kate right here with us, being the CEO. So it is good to hear all these stories on women and how they have gotten there, and how many others can have that same opportunity, and what is the path, and have a career plan to achieve those opportunities.
Well said. Very well said. Thank you for sharing. Let's grab it to the second question is, how have women influenced you in the floral industry in recent years? And what women have influenced you in the floral industry in the recent years? And I kind of like this pattern, going with Kate and then going, but whoever wants to grab the question, please feel free to grab. And if you feel moved by it, feel free. But Kate, I'd love to hear from you.
So, all right. And I know, you gave us heads up on the questions, and I kind of read this question a little bit differently. So my answers might be a little bit different. I was thinking it was more about how have women generally, like in leadership and their perspectives, influenced the floral industry in recent years. So okay. That's kind of, and I'll
might have been adjusted yet.
The other, but that's the one. I think in organizations that are led by women, I think that team members tend to feel more permission to be themselves, and like it's a safe place, and that's a very positive thing, because that means that they're performing more like at their peak optimal level, when you can bring your whole self to the situation and not feel, as Dr. Knuth is saying, like they might not know if I just sometimes want to call you Dr. Knuth, if you don't mind.
It sounds great. I
don't mind at all. Please do. Yeah.
So some people might not necessarily feel like they have permission to. And so with obviously if organizations are led by women and a really good woman leader, then that happens. I also, and this might be, I feel like, if we were in a full audience and there were, maybe men in the audience, I might get a few tomatoes thrown my way or people going, oh, not fair, not fair. But I also sometimes think that some things that I'll throw out about women, I think that they can sometimes be more fun and inclusive in the workplace.
Yeah, that's true.
I think
we're always planning.
Maybe more authentic and vulnerable too. Like, so that showing their feelings. I'm not saying all women all the time, but because that's also sometimes a personality trait. Some people, men and women, can both be very guarded sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it really depends on the environment that you're in, how you're raised, so many other factors. But when women are themselves and authentic, again, it kind of gives people around them and the organization permission to be vulnerable. And I think I said it earlier, I think women generally are more detail oriented and can juggle more things. So I think that the influence of women in leadership positions kind of can make for a more interesting workplace with a more variety of things going on, maybe even some more risk taking, but thoughtful risk taking. So yeah, I'll stop there. I could go on, but I won't.
Well, but I appreciate that. And has there been any specific woman in the industry that has inspired you, Kate?
Oh my gosh, so many. I just think of women who've sat at our board table, because that's where you really get to know people at our board and councils. Shirley Lyons, she was a retailer, and she's still alive. She's just she retired, but she was the SAF president. And there were many years we didn't really have many women at the board table, and she became SAF president. And I think that at the time there were some people at the table who weren't used to having a woman in charge, and it's not like there was bad behavior or anything like that, but sometimes it can be sort of subtle. And she really, it was inspiring to watch her lead, and she just led with so much courage and bravery and wasn't afraid to throw out, crazy ideas. And I really appreciated that about her. But we've had a lot of women now, several women on our board. We have Lori Wheat with Lafayette Florist, and she's our president-elect, and she's like this quiet. Shirley was just like, walking jazz hands, and Lori is this very quiet force. She's there's just like still waters run deep. She's got a lot of depth, and she's a very powerful person that I think is going to have a lot of influence on SAF in a really positive way too.
Thank you for sharing. Dr. Knuth, what do you like to share? I like the way that rhymes.
Yes.
I like the flows.
Well, just a comment really quick on what Kate said, where women are better at multitasking. So there was a research study done a couple of years ago that women have a wider bridge between their two brain hemispheres, and it's not genetic, it's environmental. So because women are more likely to be do chores and tasks and have to listen to your kids talking and your partner talk at the same time and things like that, women develop a stronger, wider bridge to be able to do all of those multitask things.
That's so interesting.
Isn't that? Oh man,
that's amazing.
And I believe it.
Yeah. So if you're ever curious, if you're ever curious why women seem to be better at multitasking than men, it's like a muscle that they've built up. So women who've inspired me. So this is like, oh man, who do I even there's so many, but I'll start with the original woman that inspired me in horticulture, and that was Ellen Paparosi, and she was my undergrad professor at Nebraska, and she was a self-proclaimed very spicy Italian. She scared me to death, but I was like, holy crap, I want to be that when I grow up. I was like, holy moly, she's so smart and so just she tells you what she thinks. And she was just very inspiring for me. And the next woman was Robin Kilbride. She is another one with Smithers Oasis. And she is just, again, such a well put together, thoughtful woman who is a powerhouse in our industry and is just like amazing. And now a close friend of mine is Bridget Behe, and she was my PhD mentor and taught me how to walk the bounds of being an authentic woman, but still, in meetings, say what I needed to say without being known as a B word, as some women who have strong personalities are known to be by their peers. And so being a woman with a strong personality, she taught me so much on how to be myself and then also present myself in the best way so that I could be successful as a professor. So those three women, right off the bat, I was like, yes, them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Carmen, would you like to chime in?
Yes, and I travel a lot, but there's a lot of other women and other colleagues who also make it to all these events or activities. And the one thing that I always hear from the ones who are married and have kids that I don't hear from the men are that, okay, I had to leave everything ready for my kids to be picked up for their school play, for their afternoon activities, if they were picked up or dropped off, everything all at the same time of what is going on at the actual activities that they're in on their traveling agendas. And that's something when we're talking about women juggling and doing all these things, that's exactly the point of how we can handle work and our life balance at the same time and still not losing the perspective of the business or the life side. So that's something that other women that have those lifestyles, if sometimes that I'm not married and I don't have kids and I feel that I don't have the time, then I get into their shoes and I'm always thinking, if that person is doing it, then I can do it. And I think of another woman who has to not struggle, but arrange all those things around it, then I can also be able to do it. So that's something that influences me in a positive way on this industry, and keep on doing the things I'm doing and not dropping the ball in any one activity.
Well, and Carmen, I'll say that if you do have children, hopefully you'll have a partner at home that will be competent enough to handle
Well said.
You know what? But I don't hear that.
I mean, my husband was. I remember, and I had kids in the late 90s, and then 2001, 2 daughters. They're 23 and 27, and I remember going to SAF's convention and WFSA and the other things I would travel to. And I'd see, I'd been in the industry for a while at that point. So I knew people, they knew me, they had seen me from, someone in my early 20s growing up and having kids. And I can't tell you how many people would say, well, who's watching your kids? And I said, like, their dad, my husband. and I do think that's a shift we're seeing in roles with this. I mean, all of my nieces and nephews who've had kids, both are taking leave. Both the dad and the mom are taking leave, and I think that's a good change. But in my case, I have to say, big shout out to my husband, because I didn't leave him a list of anything. I mean, now I'm also going to pat myself on the back a little bit for that too, because I didn't feel the need to. Sometimes women have to let go. They have to take. Just give up a little control. Sometimes, depending on your personality, we can be a little controlling. I can. And so it does take letting go. But I hope generationally, there's less and less of that.
And that's a good support system so that we can strive on what we're doing.
Yeah. Choose well in your partner is what I say.
Very true. One of the most important decisions you make.
Of course, and I'm not going to say much, but I hope my wife is watching for for the
Well,
comedy
actually, no.
these
You
days.
can say so. I'll put you on the spot.
Oh
You
no, I'm
have
not
kids?
going to do manscaping here. I'm not here for the manscaping, but I'll do my best. I'll do my
All
best.
right,
Promise.
we'll let you off the hook.
No, you can go ahead. Ask me. I'm very open. Feel free. What were you going to say, Kate?
I just wanted to know, how is it with you? When does your wife travel? And
My
you
my
have children, right? You have a few
No,
kids.
we actually don't have children, so
You
I'm a
don't.
little bit off the topic. But my wife is amazing in the sense that she's a president of a major company, and she multitasks so much. She travels, plus takes care of the home, plus makes sure I'm taken care of. We do have a really good synergy there's a really good balance in our household, where I know my role and I try to step in. What's funny, this is a funny story, is I used to come into the kitchen and go, "How can I help you?" And that would kind of upset her. And she's like, "What do you mean help? This is your part of the job too." So now I've had to change
Right.
my role to, "How can I support you?" Right? So now it's more of a team and saying, "How can I support you with dinner tonight?" Because I see that my wife will be at work all day, come in 7 o'clock, still working, and then making dinner for us, or I made dinner. But then obviously there's that control part. I make dinner, I make a little mess, so she's not gonna let me make dinner. So it's funny what you had said, Kate, because I could really relate with that as well. But my wife is nothing but a dynamo. Well, she's managing 20 plates at one time, while I'm trying to support and keep up, if you could say that, and really keep up. Um, go ahead, go ahead, Carmen.
No, just keep up.
Yeah, keep up, because she's the type of woman, she'll ask, take out the trash. I'll be right there in 5 minutes. She's already taken out the trash while she's done the dishes. What? So I have to keep up, So I'm always, if you see me at an event, I'm very hospitable and I'm hosting. Not only because I have a background in hospitality, but also keeping up with my wife. So I'm being trained, as she says, stated. She has stated. But now I think it's a good time for guest participation, right? So let's chime into, each guest will have the opportunity to ask one question to the entire group or to a specific person. And I was really excited about this because the purpose of the Bloom Show is really to connect people, to get to know each other. And we've made some great connections with the Bloom Show where ladies have become friends or jobs have been offered. It's just been a really great, and not just within the women that have joined, but also the other shows. So I thought it was a great opportunity to learn from each other. So if we could start again, Kate, we're not picking on you, but I just like the flow so far. Is each guest has an opportunity to ask one question. So what would be a question you'd like to ask today, Kate?
Well, and I want to ask something that will help people. That I'm curious about, and will also maybe will help people who are tuning in and who will be watching this learn something too. So I would ask, and I can ask the same question for both, or
Yeah, no, you could ask either. It's your goal. It's either a question for both. And again, I think that's a great idea. The audience, please chime in. If Kate asks a question and you have an answer and you'd like to share, please share your thoughts even in the comments after you watch this live. It would be great. But go ahead, Kate. However you like to model it.
curious if either of you can think of a situation where you were facing, like a tough point in your either in your position or in your career trajectory. Something like there was a barrier that you had to get around and overcome, and maybe if you can share what you did to get around that.
Yeah, I'll try my best to keep it anonymous because it's a little bit difficult with one situation. But the one example I have is actually when I was in graduate school, and there was someone in a position of power who had a position of power above me, and they were intentionally trying to make my life difficult because I was a woman. And I knew it, they knew it, everyone around me knew it. And by the way, this is not about Charlie Hall. This is not about my PhD advisor. This is not about him.
Can't be Charlie.
I just had to throw that out there so no one was like, Charlie? No.
No.
This is about someone else. And they made my life so difficult that after finishing a meeting or in the middle of a meeting with this person, I got up and I was going to quit. I was like, I'm done. I'm done here. I'm done at Texas A&M. I'm done here. I'm over it. I told myself when I was younger, I was not going to deal with discrimination, and I'm not going to deal with it now, and I'm out of here. And a female professor came to my office and she said, I saw what happened, and don't quit. Don't let them win. Don't let them win in this situation. I'm here to support you any way that I can. And just sat with me for a moment and let me express my frustration. And then I went back in the room and I finished the meeting, and things progressed and got more positive after that. But in that situation, how I overcame that, the barrier was a person's opinion about me. And how I overcame that was really because someone else believed in me. And this didn't have to be, it happened to be another woman, but it didn't necessarily have to be. I hope that makes sense. On that person coming in and seeing it and saying, I know that's wrong. I'm sorry you have to deal with this, but I believe in you. And I know that you can overcome this and, you know, get around this barrier. That was enough to make me continue, because that's what I needed. I needed support in that capacity.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it was
For
very,
myself, I don't think I haven't had that negative response. So I don't know. I cannot think of an example of something that for being a woman, I had to go around it and done something differently. Fortunate enough.
Well, that's good.
that's very good. Yeah.
Can we ask you the same question?
Yeah.
It's funny because I can't think of something that really is about, like, because I'm a woman, or maybe they happened, but I've just blocked them out. You block out like painful memories. Like, there's those little things. I mean, because I've been around working professionally since the late 80s. And so I was definitely at a time where, came up through a time where there were things that were just normal to do, comments from men that, definitely that were normal comments and sometimes gestures. I'm fortunate not to have ever had, just a really terrible, situation that would be in that category. I'm not a Me Too, I haven't had that, but I can't say that, I don't know. I mean, because I've been at SAF pretty much my whole career. In SAF, I've never felt any kind of barriers, like related to gender at all. I mean, there have been lots of challenges in my job, but they don't necessarily have to do with gender. And I have to say, let's say in my job, we've got, there's kind of like, there's two parts of it. There's running our, working with our team, right? Our internal office. There's that, and this is the case for any association. You have your team and doing all the work, and then you've got the external, and that's kind of our whole industry. And what SAF does is on display, right? It's like on display, and whether it's our advocacy or content or our education, it is there for people to take in. And sometimes people like it and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they have really strong feelings about things that we're doing, whether it's positions we take on advocacy or how, who we put on a stage. And I think over the years, it's a combination of, let's say we do something and it kind of bombs, or, some people thought it wasn't so great. I've learned, well, first, there always are people in the industry, who just, and I'm so grateful for them because it's such a kind, special industry, who will just, talk to me and say, it's okay, like that's okay. And then I have appreciated that over the years. And I also, it makes me think of, something that really resonated with me in one of Brene Brown's books. And it may have been Dare to Lead, but I think she brings it up in her other books too. But how she talks about the arena, like you go out in the arena, you put yourself out in the arena and you're doing really difficult things. And so sometimes, sometimes you're going to fail, but at least you put yourself out there. And if people are like throwing stones at you, it's like, well, then get down here in the arena and you try this. But also, and just an awareness that sometimes you're going to fail, and that's okay. And I do believe in the adage that I think, and I talk about this with our team too, because I don't want them to be afraid of trying things. But if I've said, if we're not failing, then we're not working hard enough, because you have to fail, and then learn from it. Because if we're not failing, that means we're just doing the exact same thing all the time.
And that fear,
That
fear of, is this something that I should have done? That makes you think
Right.
of maybe you're doing something different. Because if you're not questioning yourself on that, then it was an easy task. And
Right.
if it's challenging enough, then, and if it succeeds, then you know that you did the right thing.
Right. Because in marketing, Carmen, I mean, you're
Oof.
always trying new things. I see what
Right.
you're trying, and I'm sure you've had failures where things bombed or they didn't go as well. And right, like, and then you just have to kind of dust yourself off.
Figure it out how to do it and how to go against all the odds.
Right. Yeah.
And something that I've always said is, don't fear perfection.
No.
Don't try to be always perfect. Sometimes
Right.
you have to go with your heart and push through and hope for the best. And as long as you have good intentions, it should reap benefits. And
Right.
either way, you learn a lesson or it's successful.
Right.
Carmen, or Dr. Knuth, if you like.
The first and then me.
Okay, Dr.
Okay,
Knuth.
yeah. So I have a question for you guys. So how do you mentor women around you?
Good question.
Or do you mentor women around you? I guess, like, if you don't have a strategy, do you in general?
But for me, it's a lot of people because of what you guys said, that we're all over the place and doing different things. They approach me and they're like, oh, how did you do this? Or what do you think we can do differently? And it can be an easier answer of, I don't have the time, or I could be a more open person and say, hey, you know what? Let's do it together. Let's work it out, and I'll tell you how I did it, maybe where you can start doing differently and dare yourself to do something different. But for me, it has been really surprising on the amount of people, that women and men, and not from breeders, but all kinds of parts of the industry, approaching to me and asking how can they do things differently and how can I help them out. So I think that's a good way of maybe seeing that I'm doing something right, and I can give my little share into whatever can make them succeed.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And what you do is so amazing, the impact that you have on the industry and the products,
And you know what is also people giving you challenges, and I'm thinking, if they're telling me these things, maybe I should do it, and making you think, okay, let's try something different. I know the person I always travel with, she's always is a woman that is always picking up new stuff and proposing it, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I remember maybe about in 2020, when everything was closed with COVID, and there were no shows and there was no way of getting to show the new varieties. I was with this idea. Okay, so if we cannot visit farms and we cannot go to the shows, how can we take our varieties out there? And then we came up with this idea with this person and Juana, which is the sales director, and we're like, okay, why don't we take the flowers to the farms? So we came up with this huge idea of putting flowers in this 10-ton truck and driving all over in the savannah in Bogota, filled in with flowers, and visiting 4 or 5 farms a day. And it really made a difference to each one. And you can ask anyone if they remember that activity. And at the beginning, when we talked about it, they're like, all right, do it, but I don't know if it's going to be successful. And at the end, it was a very successful idea. We dare to do things differently. So I
So
think
great.
also who you surround yourself, and it's always challenging or making things differently, makes an impact on me. And also our work at the end shows up on what you're saying. And others also want to try to do,
Right.
approach us and see what they can do differently.
Inspiring. Fantastic.
Right. Yeah. It inspires. I really, I mean, I think most of my mentoring is really with our team. At least I hope so. You know, I
Mhm.
consider it a really important role of mine. You know, whether it's mentoring or coaching. Because it's my hope that I really want everybody who's working at SAF just to have, you know, to feel like they can bring their best self to work, and 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 to help them on that journey and help them grow. And it's definitely my style. I'm kind of like an in the moment coaching. If I see great things happening, I like to talk about it right away, like that was great and I love that. And if then there's some areas where someone can learn or didn't go quite as well, it's like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Here's what I saw, it could have been this way. So it's very much like in the moment, and it's a dialogue, and I think that helps. I think that's one thing. And we do, you know, that's really not just me, but with our team leaders, who are so great. They're doing that same thing. And you know, we have a lot of young people on our staff. I mean, we've got this age range with me. I think I might be the oldest. Joe might be a little older than me. We only have one male on our team, and then the rest women. But really, we've got everyone's from age 23. You know, there's a big chunk of people from, you know, age 23, a lot in their 30s, maybe a few in their 40s, a couple in their 50s. But we've got a lot of young people, and they're early in their careers. And I hope that SAF can play a role in helping them really discover their own gifts and put them to use on SAF and in the floral industry. So yeah, I love that aspect of my job, and I hope that I do it well. I kind of consider it, you know, really, really important for sure.
Thank you for sharing, Kate. How about you, Carmen? I think
I
you'll
would
be the last question as well. So
yes. Last question. What would you advise other women for them to get into the industry? What would be your advice?
What do you mean, like to encourage them to get into the industry?
To encourage them to get into the industry.
I think this is one of those unique industries that any strength can come into this industry and be supported. If you're analytical, there's a place for you. If you're creative, there's a place for you. If you're more of a support person, you don't like the spotlight, there's a place. If you like to be in the spotlight, there's definitely a place. And so there's always a place for you to find belonging within the florist and floristry industry. I think as well, this industry is built on a lot of creativity, which is more of a female trait in American culture, and so this already naturally draws a lot of women into the industry. And so there's already a lot of women in the industry who are highly successful that you can look up to, who are there to also be a support role for you. Like I could go to pretty much anyone in our industry and say like, hey, could you be my mentor? And I bet they would be like, yes, or they'd say, no, but here's a person who would. And so there's that ability to get support and grow, all pun intended.
Right.
Yeah, it is so true that there's so many facets of it. And that's something that Jasmine Albaron with Seed Your Future is always talking about. What's the message that she's putting out to the world about this industry, whether you're a science person or a marketing person or, you know, a design person, logistics, everything. We've got it. We absolutely have it.
Never
in
know.
this industry. And I would love to see, I mean, we've seen some, this has definitely changed the number of women in the supply side of the industry, you know, on the importing and growing end. There are more women. Well, there always were lots of women. I mean, women are growing our flowers. Okay. Like that, especially, especially,
Colombia, Ecuador.
Mhm.
but we also are seeing more women in leadership positions at wholesalers, at supply, at importers, and at growers. I was, I think this was during a Next Gen Live last year. We were visiting a flower farm, and I saw something I'd never seen though, that where the head grower was a woman and the head of their packing and distribution facility was a woman. And this is
Wow.
a big grower, and they were two women, probably in their 30s. I was really impressed and really encouraged by that. And the owners of the grower, they're men, and so it's not like it's not like it's like Anna Ball. You had a female at the top, which is great. But
in middle management as well, right?
right.
At farms, which are usually more men oriented because they're the head floriculture, agriculture background.
Right. And so I'm seeing more of that. For some reason, you still don't see a lot of that in the wholesale side of the industry, like women running and owning wholesale operations. You have some in leadership positions, but not necessarily owning it. I'm not sure why that is, but I would want to encourage, I'd love to filter more women on the supply and manufacturing side of our industry. I'd want to talk them into that because it's fascinating. There's so much to it. And Carmen, you're an inspiration because you're on that side, and Juana, and there are other women, at Ball SB, which is great. Of course, Ball.
Our director for INV, which is new product introductions, she leads all the new varieties. She programs all the crops for our shows, for the open days. To women, and she is in charge of the Colombia farm that we have for trials, the Ecuador farm that we have in trials, and the Kenya farm that we have in trials. And
Wow.
and recently came back from Kenya, I think on Friday or Saturday. And I asked about her today because we're planning the open week next week. And then they're like, no, she's in Ecuador right now doing, and I'm like, she's in Ecuador right now? She just came from Kenya.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing. And I enjoyed this part most of everybody asking each other questions and learning from each other. So thank you so much. I hope you truly enjoyed. And I hope that you enjoyed the hour spent of having a nice cocktail with us and sharing and hopefully inspiring other ladies in our industry. If there was one word that you would share or one statement or comment to women in the industry to inspire them into growing more, into looking for leadership roles, and I guess this is the final question, what would that be? Just one statement or a quote that might inspire them. Kate, would you like to try to take that? I know that this was not a part of the questions and Kate did her homework, so this is a pop quiz, Kate.
I would just encourage you to be on a constant learning journey, and know that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Fantastic. How about yourself, Dr. Knuth?
My statement would be, do it. Just about leadership, about your job, do it.
Okay. Great work.
And my word will be, or my phrase will be, put yourself out there. Just be there.
Fantastic. Inspiring. Thank you, ladies, so much for inspiring other women in our industry, and truly appreciate you and in your time tonight.
We appreciate you, Said.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. My pleasure and my honor. I'll put you in the bloom room. I'll say my goodbyes and have a great evening. And Carmen and Kate, get some rest because I know we need it after the great conventions we've been at with WUSA and all.
You too, Said.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening. Thank you so much.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye. So as always, it's always a great Women's Day roundtable with inspiring women in our industry and hopefully inspiring more women in our industry. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal industry that causes positive emotional and mental well-being from the beginning of life to even end of life. And it's just an amazing industry. When I realized that in our industry, that's when I started really having passion for our industry. It's an industry that many of us make our mark, but it's an industry that makes a mark, continual mark in the lives of many in a positive, positive way. So I want to thank the ladies for being with us today, for sharing their story, for inspiring other ladies, other women in our industry. So thank you so much for everybody that joined. Again, please share, like, comment, and comment. So if something touched you today, please share that with the women today that joined us. Thank you again for your time, and hopefully you can join us next time. Take care. Bye-bye.